latest alleged massacres by Boko Haram militants in Nigeria came as Secretary of State John Kerry visited the country yesterday. As Kerry arrived, the militants were attacking the main city in northwestern Nigeria and also reportedly rampaging through more than half a dozen villages, killing people, looting and burning homes yet again.
It is indeed difficult to keep up with the various despots and killers now spreading across the globe. But as America deals with such vermin as al-Qaeda and ISIS, the time has come to put Boko Haram front and center with them. Those who massacred around 2,000 innocent people recently in Nigeria. Their tactics are brutal, and the Nigerian government has to be forced to deal with them. Maybe not as harshly as the Nigerians would want. And if that means a little American blackmail, so be it. Welcome to MidPoint. Former State Department spokesman and ambassador to Bahrain, one who understands what needs to happen behind the scenes, Ambassador Adam Ereli joins us. Ambassador, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Ambassador, we have this from John Kerry. The U.S. will continue to back Nigeria's fight against Boko Haram, but it comes with a caveat. He says the Nigerian government must ensure that the upcoming elections will be fair and transparent. Bottom line, we want to do more. Isn't it fair to say that every now and then blackmail is a good thing and you've got to do it in a case like this to make something happen?
You know, I have a problem with the word blackmail for two reasons. One is, I mean, Kerry is basically stating longstanding U.S. policy, which is that, you know, any government, if it wants to be seen as legitimate and credible, has to, in a democracy, has to come to power through a process that is free, fair, and transparent. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is, on the issue of blackmail, I mean, the fact of the matter is, Nigeria is going to fight to defeat Boko Haram no matter what the Secretary of State says. And the United States is not going to determine the success or failure of this campaign. I mean, look, we can help, and we should help, but Nigeria is going to, and the government of Nigeria, no matter who wins the election, is going to try to defeat Boko Haram because that's what the government is elected to do, and that's what the people of Nigeria deserve. So, you know, frankly, Secretary Kerry's words notwithstanding, this is something that the Nigerians believe in and are committed to. And I think the United States should help them to the greatest extent that we can.
All right, now I will agree with you. And again, and the word blackmail here was basically used in that sense that, yes, of course, sometimes you have to do these things. Let's call it negotiations. Let's call it, if you will, political pressure, however you want to put it. But it certainly is there. And when you mention that the Nigerian government will defeat Boko Haram, isn't it fair to say, though, that you need to push them? Because it would seem to many people around the world that the government does not do enough at this point right now, that they simply have allowed this disease, if you will, Boko Haram, to fester, and they need the help of America. Otherwise, they won't be able to do it on their own.
You know, again, I will just take issue with that analysis on a number of points.
Please do.
Number one, I mean, to say that Boko Haram is there because the Nigeria government has been asleep is, I think, a little unfair. I mean, sure, there could have been more done, but you can say that about any terrorist movement. I mean, look at Iraq, for example. Look at Afghanistan and the Taliban. Look at ISIS in Syria. Look at, well, Charlie Hebdo. I mean, the French government knew these guys were on the watch list. They had been in jail for 3 or 4 years. And then they go and blow up or shoot up a newspaper and take people and slaughter people in a grocery store. What the heck was the French government doing? So my point is this. International terror, whether it's ISIS or Boko Haram or al-Qaeda or the Taliban, international terror is an international problem. It is cross-border, and the only way to defeat it is through international efforts. So to say that Boko Haram is a Nigerian problem, is that the Nigerians created because of
No, I don't think that's what I was saying. I didn't say that they created it. I'm just saying that I didn't say they created it. I said, for instance, that they would need help in order to defeat them. You would agree with that?
Well, absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. And what I would argue is, you know, we should be using the same rhetoric we use with respect to ISIS in Iraq, that with Boko Haram in Nigeria.
I'm going to ask you to hold on for a moment because I'm up against a break, but we have reached that one point where I think we have a little agreement here on where we need to go forward, and that's what we're going to focus on when we come back, what American pressure needs to say out loud with regard to Boko Haram, Syria, Yemen, and others when MidPoint continues. Let's welcome back to MidPoint former State Department spokesman and ambassador to Bahrain, Ereli, joins us on the show. Ambassador, we left off by agreeing, and I think it's proper, that something needs to be done, and certainly Boko Haram has fallen off the map in so many ways. This is a group that killed over 11,000 people last year. But I think basically what happens is it gets lost because it's Nigeria. We don't see it as a threat to America. So you then brought up the very simple point that Americans want to know. Well, here's two. A, Americans going to ask, why should we care? And you know you hear that all the time from people. But B, they're in Nigeria. What is it about American security that really makes us think that, along with what's happening to ISIS and al-Qaeda, that Boko Haram has got to be right up front with those two?
I guess two points. Number one, obviously the humanitarian concern. As you said, Boko Haram is massacring women, children, and burning villages to the ground. So that's a problem. But let's look at the strategic importance of Nigeria. It is the largest country in Africa with 180 million people. It is the 7th largest population in the world. It is the 5th largest Muslim population. So if you're worried about Islamic extremism reaching American shores, which is the basic argument of why we need to fight al-Qaeda and ISIS, then don't neglect Boko Haram, because Nigeria's is the 5th largest Muslim population in the world.
But I think here's the bigger problem that Americans always want to hear about when you and I have these kind of, or anybody has this kind of a discussion. You just talked about how Nigeria is a focal point for Muslim extremism. We hear the same thing about Yemen. We hear the same thing about Saudi Arabia. We hear the same thing about Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, all these other countries. So I think Americans right now, their heads are spinning, going, where do we go first?
Yeah, well, look, Americans, I would take that one step further. Americans' heads are spinning and they just want to stick them in the sand and not worry about all this stuff because it's confusing and scary and whatever, and they've got these funny names that we can't pronounce. Well, you know, we don't have that luxury, quite frankly. And oh, guess what? Being the world superpower is expensive. It doesn't come for free. And if you are the world superpower, number one, everybody wants to take a shot at you. And number two, you better defend yourself. And number three, the best defense is a good offense. So that's why I would say we've got to go after the Taliban, we've got to go after al-Qaeda, we've got to go after ISIS, we've got to go after Boko Haram, because they're all bad and they're all out to get us. And if you don't believe it, just wait for the bomb to go off.
And again, you know, there are going to be people who are going to say, wait a minute, we just keep bombing everybody and it doesn't help. And then there are people who say, well, we have to give them economic help. We have to then understand their culture. There's so many things that are going on here, though. In your opinion, though,
welcome to the 21st century and the global economy
and
the global village.
Where does that, when you say you've got to go on offense here, where does that offense begin? That one point that's got to start. I ask everybody this and I get a different answer from your opinion.
Yeah. Well, I think that, you know, again, the lesson of Iraq and ISIS is instructive. Look, we've put together an international coalition. It includes Arab countries. It includes European countries. It includes Asian and Pacific countries. And we're taking the fight to ISIS, and we've stopped their advance. We're rolling them back. It's going to take a long time. The Arabs and the Iraqis are going to have to bear the brunt of it. But without concentrated firepower, economic power, diplomatic power, of the entire international community, we're not going to succeed.
There's the key. You're talking about everybody else getting involved, right? That's what we miss. It can't just be us.
Yep, exactly.
All right. I got about a minute and a half here, and I need to ask you about this because this story came out today according to the official IRNA news agency. Iran says it has sent a warning to Israel through the United States over the recent killing of an Iranian general in the alleged Israeli airstrike. It is a vow of revenge to Israel through U.S. officials. Do we take it seriously? Do you really believe, and do others believe that you speak to, that Iran would go first strike and go against Israel? Some say maybe Israel should do the other and go first strike on their own.
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends how you define revenge. Iran is very, very good at asymmetrical warfare and using terror and third-party surrogates to attack their targets. So number one, I would take that Iranian threat very seriously. Number two, they are going to respond at a time and place of their choosing, and my guess is it's going to be a place that we don't expect.
When it comes down to that, then, and knowing this threat was delivered, what should America do? Because we're in the middle no matter what we think.
Well, I don't think necessarily that we need to worry about them going after us because of the Israeli strike.
No, but certainly they may still go
Syria.
after Israel,
However,
and that is our big Middle Eastern ally.
Yeah, well, I think, look, if you ask me, Iran has been and continues to be and will be for the foreseeable future our principal threat, or then the principal threat to our interests in the region and beyond. And I think we should act accordingly. And unfortunately, I don't think the nuclear talks are taking us in the right direction, bearing all that in mind.
I think you'd find a lot of people who agree with you. Ambassador Adam Ereli, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. I'm glad we got right down to that one area that we could agree on and find out where we're going with Boko Haram. I look forward to having you on again, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. What Boko Haram and their ilk do every day brings gasps to those who witness the brutality. But 70 years ago this day, a different kind of brutality was enough to end lives. It's coming up next.